Welcome back to the House of Ravenscroft, where I blend real estate strategy with financial planning to help you make smarter moves. Now, today's episode covers a topic not only do I get asked about all the time, but it may seem like I talk about it a lot of times. And that is new construction. And is new construction a smart move right now? The short answer for many people is yes. The longer answer, I would say, is really where the real value lies. So stick with me. I'm going to break down the truth behind a lot of things new construction, why new construction makes sense right now, give you some insight on the incentives, all the builder paid rate buy downs you see, the customization perks, the build quality of homes, and why it makes sense to have a real estate professional with new construction. So let's start with my background with new construction because it's important. Now, I've been in the business long enough to see patterns, and one thing that I noticed really early on in my career when I started in real estate was most agents, most real estate agents, most real estate professionals, they don't actually understand new construction. So you'll have an agent walk clients through model homes. They say they're a new construction expert, but ask that agent, do they know about the window quality? Do they know where the builder's getting the windows? Do you know what type of framing materials are used? Insulation standards. What is this builder known for? And most of them had nothing. I didn't like that. That didn't sit right with me. So I decided to do things differently and I saw an opportunity. So I spent time interviewing builders, shadowing superintendents, chatting with the framers, HVAC installers, drywall crews, electricians. I wanted to understand not just what was being built, but why it was being built that way, and really what separated each builder from each other. Why is the builder across the way $50,000 more than this builder? So, and still to this day, I still visit job sites. I attend every walkthrough with clients. I have conversations with the trades during my monthly checkups on builds. And that's really how I've built a reputation, not just as an agent, but as a true advocate and expert in the new construction space. So now that you know a little bit about my background, what I've done to learn a lot about new construction, I want to educate you a little bit on how new construction has changed. And it hasn't been that long. I'm going to take you back to when my wife and I bought one of our first new builds here in the Phoenix metro. It eventually became a rental. That was the plan all along. And at the time, there wasn't really a thing such as incentives. Right? I think we maybe got $2,500 in credits, and there might have been a few $1,000s flex on price. Fast forward to February 2020, I was actually working with my parents, helping them find a new build. And we all know February 2020, the world was kind of on the brink of change. We didn't know it yet at the time. Really, at that time, February and in March, and working with some of the builders, we didn't know what was going to happen in the world. The builders didn't know what was going to happen. Luckily, we were able to negotiate closing costs. Were covered all appliances, a pretty substantial price cut. And then, of course, we roll into March and everything changed. Suddenly, any and all incentives that I had helped my parents with vanished. Now the builders had waiting lists. We had lines. There was lotteries for lots. And I'm not sure if that happened in other parts of the country, but here in Arizona, there were lotteries. Now think of it. You had a lottery for the opportunity to secure a lot, to buy a home. And I was on many of those, whether it was in person or via Zoom, where there was 4 lots and there was 90 people with their name in a bowl hoping to get picked. Incentives were gone, people were desperate, and prices, of course, skyrocketed. Fast forward to now in 2025, Obviously, it's those days are behind us, thank goodness, but we're in now a higher interest rate environment and yes, higher prices. So this is exactly why currently new construction is shining again. So let me answer the question why new construction makes sense right now. I'm going to break it down. Number one, incentives are back, but incentives are bigger than ever. There are builder paid 3.75% rates. Now, it's very important to know these are not adjustables. These are not adjustable rate mortgages. These aren't teaser rates. These aren't temporary buy downs. Some of them do that. But there's a lot of builders out there that are offering 3.75, 3.99, 4%, 4.25%, 30-year fixed rates that the builder is buying down. The closing costs are covered. Appliances are included. And there's some that are even including landscaped backyards, which normally the backyard comes dirt and you're responsible as the buyer, now homeowner, to landscape the backyard yourself and pay for that. So now you have these huge incentives. Think of it this way. We're in an environment right now, an interest rate environment. We're kind of in the mid sixes, let's say 6.4, 6.6. Some are a little bit lower, some a little bit higher. And you go new construction and you're getting a brand new home. 3.99% was the one I had just secured 2 days ago for a client. That was a 30-year fixed rate, 3.99%. The builder paid that buy down. Closing costs were covered. They got appliances, they got window treatment. They didn't get the backyard, but still, those are huge wins. The other thing is low maintenance. It's a brand new home. Not only do you have warranty from the builder, typically a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, and 10-year warranty, you don't have any major repairs for 20 plus years. You're not having to redo the roof. You're not having to replace the HVAC. There's no windows that you have to replace, no plumbing. That deferred maintenance that most resale buyers can't escape, right? Then you have customization. You control, say, I'll look at the backyard. When you have a new build, and that's a lot of the appeal with new builds, for myself as well, is when I look at a new home for myself, and I look at a resale home, sometimes I look at the backyard and think, you know what, I would have done that differently. I don't really like that. There's going to be money that's going to be invested to get that backyard how I want. So personally, I would much rather have a blank slate and I can create that backyard how I want it to be exactly. So again, you control the backyard design, whether it's just low maintenance, you just want some turf, some pavers. Maybe you do want to put a pool in. Maybe you want to put a sport court, a pergola, a fire pit, whatever it is, you have the control. So that's really important too with customization. Now, where we're at today, middle of May in 2025, materials and cost are rising. Potential tariffs are going to be pushing construction costs up. We don't know exactly how much. Kind of what I've seen out there, everyone's kind of expecting 10 to 20%. So the benefit and why new construction can make sense right now is you're locking in today's price, which is kind of a hedge against those future cost spikes. Now, it's going to depend on what market you're in, but I'm going to speak about and talk about Arizona. We don't have a lot of the things that other markets would have. In 2020, 2021, I had a lot of conversations with partner agents because there was a lot of movement here in Phoenix, and they were telling me about, oh, we have escalation clauses in our contract where you sign today, 3 months later, the builder can come to you and say, you know what, costs went up, you owe us $20,000 more. That doesn't exist here. We don't really see that here in the Phoenix metro. So the price that you sign today is the price you're going to pay when that house closes. Now, of course, things can change. A builder can sneak in an escalation clause here and there. So it's important to read the contract, but also to have representation, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But with regards to tariffs, we know costs are rising. We know materials are going to cost more. We know the builders are going to pass that cost on to buyers. So that's where buying new right now with the huge incentives, locking in today's price could make a lot of sense. Give you an example, a buyer going under contract this month with the home closing in, say, 6 months, 8 months. They're going to be, it's a build from dirt, what we would say. That price today could be substantially higher and likely will be substantially higher when they close. The other thing, and I always talk about this, I mean, this podcast is really geared towards helping you with your finances and how real estate can fit into your overall financial picture, is the rental income potential with new construction. Brand new homes rent at a premium, right? Many renters also, they've never had access to new builds. Over 70% of our inflow here in Phoenix comes from California. And that's a lot of individuals that are moving here. I think the last stat I had seen was over 320 people moving here a day. Look at California real estate. And anyone listening here can attest to this from California. There's not that much new builds. And of what you have that is new builds, look at Southern California, for example, it's going to be expensive. You don't have the amount of new construction in California that you would in Phoenix. So sometimes if people are coming here, they're not sure about the area, they're not sure if they want to buy. Hey, I've never had the opportunity to live in a new home. I will pay a premium. I will pay a few $100s more to have a brand new home that no one has ever lived in. I will pay, or say if it's been 3 or 5 years, it's newer. The other thing too is you're not going to have things breaking down. You're not going to have trades coming in and out. Oh, the roof's getting replaced. Oh, we have to worry about the HVAC going out. That's not going to happen with a new build. You can charge more, deal with less maintenance. So that's why new construction makes sense right now. Huge income potential, obviously, down the road. The tariffs, customization, low maintenance, and the biggest thing really is the huge incentives. 6.5% on a resale. Now, if you're looking at a resale, getting a loan right now, 6.5 versus 3.99. I mean, that is a huge, huge difference. So I'm going to put on my financial hat, right? Let's look at this from a financial lens, kind of the buyer's overlook. These are the things I get a lot from buyers. Eric, new builds are too expensive. I don't want to deal with the backyard. I'd rather get something move-in ready where I don't have to install ceiling fans. I don't have to put window coverings. I don't have to deal with all those little things of a new home. And I totally get it, right? It's totally understandable. I want to pause and just look at this through a financial lens. Okay? Deferred maintenance. That's really a huge, huge piece of why new makes sense. It's huge savings. With resale, and I can say over the past 3 years, of all the buyers that I've represented over the past 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, I mean, we can go back farther. Every single home has had something, whether it's the roof, the HVAC, plumbing, water heater, windows, paint, touch-ups, something. Right? With resale, you're inheriting these aging systems. These aren't, what you say, if expenses, it's when. They're gonna happen. And when they hit, you're left with two options. One is you dump capital to pay for that expense. Say you're pulling thousands from savings to cover the cost. You're selling stock. You're pulling it from somewhere. If you don't have that capital, well, you're taking out a loan, which, depending on the interest rate environment, depending on what you can qualify for, is going to be a lot higher than what the builders are offering right now, if you know where I'm kind of getting at with this. Uh, so that's the thing. It's a huge capital that you're dumping. You're paying for those expenses. Let's say your AC goes out. A new unit could run 6, 8. Say if you have two of them, $12,000, $14,000. You finance that, and you might just be paying, several $100s a month over 5 to 7 years just on that one item, not factoring in the interest that you would be paying as well if you're getting a loan. And I always look at opportunity cost, right? Even if you have the cash, say, $10,000, let's just say, you take that same $10,000 you used for a new roof, new windows, whatever it may be. Look at what you could have invested that money in the market. That money is earning compounding growth, or you put it towards another asset that generates income. Now we look at a new build, you avoid those expenses entirely because everything is under warranty. And instead of funding repairs, you're using your money and financing power strategically, and you're building equity, and you protect your liquidity. So I'm going to get into a few examples in a little bit, but I want to touch on the backyard because that is a really big one. And I get it. You can ask my wife. A lot of you maybe have had this conversation with her. Every time that we move into a new home, she always just dreads the backyard because she knows I'm going to be out there. There's going to be a ton of work involved. Again, we're looking at this from a financial lens. A new build backyard is a blank slate. But don't forget, this is really important, especially with the current incentives that builders are offering. The monthly savings from a lower interest rate, let's use that example of 3.99% versus 6.5% on the resale. That savings could easily fund your entire backyard, and you get exactly what you want without inheriting someone else's 15-year-old pool, pavers that need to be replaced, the layout, the backyard that you don't want. So something to think about. It's a strategy that I've been analyzing a lot with buyers, with clients. So if you ever want to go through that, let me know. Now, I want to go into the wealth building power of this interest rate savings. So let's go a step further and let's look at this from a mathematical perspective. I'm going to use an example. Let's say we're buying a $500,000 home. We're going to use the example at a 3.99% interest rate on a new build. Your monthly mortgage payment, and we're going to use for these examples 20% down just for simple math. We're not going to include property tax. We're not going to include insurance, HOA, because those could vary a lot depending on where you're at. We're just going to look at the mortgage payment, principal and interest. So again, a 3.99% interest rate on a new build. Your monthly mortgage payment would be about $1,900. It would be $1,907, $1,907. If we're looking at a resale home at a 6.5% interest rate, your monthly payment would be roughly $2,528. So that's $2,528. That's a monthly difference of $621. Now, here is where this gets powerful. I do this for pretty much everything in my life. So I love these examples. If you took that $621 per month and you invested that in the stock market, let's say you average a 8% annual return over the next 20 years, that savings would grow to over $358,000. Let that sink in. $358,000 in potential wealth just from making one smarter financing decision today. Now, I oftentimes hear from clients, from homeowners that are looking to downsize, upgrade, whatever it may be, the new builds are too far, right? I have a 10-minute drive. I love my 10-minute drive, but that new build would be 25-minute drive. My question is always, and will continue to be, especially now with these incentives that builders are offering, if I told you in 20 years that you would have $358,000 in potential wealth, would you stomach and be okay with that extra 15-minute drive? I guarantee you most people will. So this is how you need to look at it when you're debating between resale and new construction. It's not looking at, oh, it's a great home. Oh, that's a great incentive. Looking at it from a long-term perspective. Again, take that savings that you have per month and invest that. 8% average, annual return over 20 years. The fact that savings would grow to $358,000 just because you made a decision to go with a new build, be disciplined and smart with your decision. This is how you turn a home purchase into long-term wealth building strategy. It's not just a place to live, it's really a financial tool that works for you. So switching gears, we'll remove the whole finance, mathematical equations. Going back to new builds, one of the things is energy efficiency and utility savings. This is kind of another hidden benefit with utility bills. New homes today, they're built for energy efficiency, and you always hear the saying, they don't build things the way they used to, and I completely agree with that, with the exception of energy efficiency, right? Technology has come so far. We look at the windows that we have now, especially, dual pane, low E windows. We have the smart thermostats. When you leave the house and it detects that you're gone, it can adjust the temperature in the home. You have radiant barrier roofs. You have spray foam insulation. You have these super high efficient HVAC systems can constantly run and run and run. So in a place like Arizona, where cooling bills can skyrocket, I've seen new home buyers, myself included, save several $100s a month compared to similar size resale homes. So that's a massive long-term advantage that clearly can add up quickly. I will save everyone from doing another example where you take that few $100s a month, invest it over 20 years, it becomes X. So it's not just about comfort. It's really about the cost savings that can compound over time. And this is another thing too. If you buy a new home, you live in it for a few years and you want to turn it into a rental, well, those tenants, those renters are now going to have lower bills. They're responsible for paying for utilities. And I've seen that. I've seen that firsthand. A lot of people that have come to our own rentals and our own properties, they love seeing $200 bills versus the $500, $600 bills that they had previously with the home that was 20 plus years old. So I want to go into some examples. I've received permission from all these clients to share their experience, kind of what we got for them. So Queen Creek, Arizona. Queen Creek, Arizona is in the Southeast Valley, a ton of new construction. The young couple, we locked in a 4.25% 30-year fixed rate. They received $10,000 in closing cost credits. So that pretty much covered all closing costs. There was money left over, so we used that money that was left over, and they prepaid the HOA for a year. And then they got a landscaped backyard. Now, of course, they weren't getting a pool, but they got pavers. They got some nice turf, rocks around the backyard with desert landscaping. It was exactly what they wanted. They now rent out their previous home and the cash flow monthly on that. So it's a win-win. Now, another one in Goodyear, Arizona, another city where there is a good amount of new construction, worked with an investor. He had closed on a new rental near a golf course. Builder threw in, gosh, we got appliances on that one. We had window coverings. And because it's a new construction home, he got several $100s higher than the nearby resale comps for rentals. So a big win for him. And even being an investor, he got a 5.5% investor rate, 30-year fixed, builder paid. So these builders aren't just offering incentives to primary residents or people who are living in the home, they're also offering it to investors. And then the last one, Surprise, Arizona. Again, another market with a lot of new builds. Worked with the military family that was relocating here to Luke Air Force Base, and they took advantage of a 3.99% rate. We had additional $15,000 in incentives, and they used that to actually buy the rate down a little bit more. They didn't pay any closing cost, and now they enjoy obviously low payments, no maintenance worries, and what's really important for them, they will likely get orders in a few years and move again. And especially in a market like Surprise, there's going to be new construction in Surprise for a long, long time. Builders, if they are going to keep offering incentives, who knows if that's going to happen, what prices are going to look like. But that specific family, they secured such a low rate. Their payments are so low. If they did get orders in 2 years to move, they can easily turn that into a rental. And actually, where they're at now, where their payments are at, they would cash flow about $200 a month. So they have that flexibility. If they wanted to sell, they didn't go crazy and buy the most expensive home in the neighborhood. We actually were pretty strategic with that by finding the floor plan that is kind of smack dab in the middle. It wasn't the largest floor plan, it wasn't the smallest, but it also really wasn't a popular home. That I think they only sold 3 or 4 of them in the community, but it's a really perfect size. So kind of a caution for buyers, and especially those in the military or those that relocate often. And I kind of wish more individuals were warned about this. It's really all too common. A buyer walks into the builder's office, unrepresented. They pay the advertised price, which you should never do. They get sold on a ton of upgrades. They don't negotiate anything at all. A year, 2 years go by. Suddenly, they have to move, and now they are stuck. Why? Well, they're underwater. They can't rent out the home for anywhere near what their mortgage is. They push the upgrades way too high above what the rest of the community is at. Maybe they financed a bunch of things. The common one is putting in a pool or going just overboard. Now it's a lose-lose situation. You can't sell. You could. You're gonna net a loss. Same thing with the rental. You can't rent and cash flow. You can rent and lose a few $100s every single month. And you have to move, so you can't stay. So with any new build, really any real estate purchase, you have to protect yourself. I would ask everyone who's purchasing, whether it's here in Arizona, whether it's anywhere else, if I needed to move, ask yourself this, if I needed to move, could I turn around and rent this home for close to my all-in monthly payment? Or could I turn around and sell it? Now, in an area where there's a lot of new construction, you have to remember that there's always going to be price compression. If builders are super active, they're acquiring more land, they're going to be there for a while. That's now your competition. It's not your neighbor, it's the builders. So if builders are then offering low rates, right? 3.99, 4% rates, they're throwing in backyards. The price is the same without all your upgrades that you did. There's no way you're going to compete. And just as important too is Do the upgrades I'm selecting match the neighborhood? Right. And that's something very, very important to ask any builder or ask your agent. They should know this. What is the average that people are putting into the home? Now, if it's a community where mostly the builder is doing quick move in homes, spec homes, packaged homes, which is actually becoming a lot more common, it keeps costs low. It's going to be completely different. Where a neighborhood that the buyer's going to the design studio, picking out everything, sometimes it's 8% of the base price. Sometimes it's higher. So if you end up on being the most expensive home on the block, it's obviously going to limit your flexibility down the road substantially. Now, with builders, a word of caution. Not all builders are created equal. And I really want to be clear about that. There are builders that I will not represent clients. I will not work with the client. I've seen sloppy framing. I've seen poor quality materials being used, obviously delayed timelines here and there, terrible warranty, customer service that essentially disappears post-close. And then there's lawsuits left and right with a lot of these builders. So this is why having proper representation is critical. You need someone on your side who understands the differences between these builders. They know what materials are being used. They know who's managing the project and what recourse you have, how to hold them accountable. I can tell you many, many stories, and maybe this is a topic for another time, of just kind of horror stories that people have had, and they call me afterwards and say, we should have listened to you. We shouldn't have went with that builder. And I've had some of those calls in the last few months as well, where people decide I'm just going to go straight to the builder, or you know what Eric said, they're not the best builder. I probably shouldn't do it, but I love the floor plan, or I love the location. I love the price is obviously the most common one. And they move forward and call me back and say, can you help us? And unfortunately, once you go to the builder and you've signed, they're your representation, right? So why does representation matter? And you know what? Actually, before that, I want to kind of clear up the record here. I'm not affiliated with any builder. I represent you. I represent my clients. I represent buyers, not the builder. My job is to find the right fit, get you the best terms, and ultimately protect your interest through every phase of the build. And that's why I have a list of builders that I will not represent clients, because I know the experience is going to be terrible. I know you're going to get a bad quality home. You're going to be fighting with the warranty team to get anything done. Why would I put any client through that? So, and if you're not in Arizona, please reach out. I've got a trusted network, national network, and I can connect you with someone in your market who knows new construction just like I do. So let's dive into representation a little bit, to dive in a little bit deeper, why it makes sense and why it's so important. Now, the obvious one, sales agents represent the builder. When you walk into the model home and you see that friendly face, they work for the builder. Their job is to sell you the home, sell you upgrades, maybe even push you into a faster close. They do not represent your interest at all, right? If you sign a contract and then you go to them and say, hey, you told me this, well, they represent the builder. At the end of the day, they might fight for you a little bit, but again, they work for the builder. I can't stress that enough. When you hire an agent, a real estate professional, they act as your fiduciary. They ensure you get unbiased insights. They will read the contract. Some don't, but every single agent needs to read the contract and builder comparisons. Like I said, that are actually helping you protect your investment and ensuring that you're not getting into a bad situation. Now, this one, I would say very, very few clients, buyers, consumers, even real estate agents know about this. is builder profit margins. Most builders, now it ranges. I'm going to say most builders bake in at least 20% margin on each home. So let's use that $500,000 home as an example. That's a $100,000 margin profit on that. So with the right strategy, with the right representation, this gives you a lot of room to negotiate incentives, rate buy downs, upgrades, a better lot without paying a premium, or just off the price of the home. Now, the big one, I would say too, is the compensation misconception. A lot of buyers think, oh, I'm not going to use an agent. The builder can help me. The builder can write the contract. And I'm not going to have an agent, so the builder will just pass that savings on to me. That's not how it works. Agent compensation is built into the builder's pricing model. If you don't use a real estate agent, that money doesn't come off the price. It simply stays with the builder. Builders have, looking at it from an accounting standpoint, they're going to have separate columns and line items for certain expenses. One of those is agent compensation. So why wouldn't you want someone advocating for you if the cost is already covered by the builder? The other one, contracts. Mentioned contracts, and I want to touch on one thing. I talked about escalation clauses earlier and kind of contract complexity. A lot of these builder contracts, I mean, I just read one last night. It was 45 pages. Now, I've seen the contracts time and time again, so I know what I'm looking for, but a lot of buyers haven't. And a big one is escalation clauses. Luckily, we don't have a lot of them here in Arizona. I have seen some here and there coming up recently, but it allows the builder to increase your final price if materials go up. Like I said in that example, you sign a contract today, a few months later, if there's an escalation clause in there, the buyer now is on the hook for 10,000 more, 20,000 more, 50,000 more. And I've seen contracts where buyers get hit with these surprise fees mid-build and they don't understand the fine print. So this is why contract review, negotiation, and having representation is so important. And also, it's not just about the home. It's about the community, right? The school districts, the HOAs, the HOA fees. Is that HOA well funded? The infrastructure, the zoning, the things that are coming to this area. A builder's agent is not going to educate you on why the community across the way is better. They're not going to go through that. They're going to sell you on the community that they are in and the builder that they work for. So I talked a lot about new construction, right? And there's probably more that I can touch. But as my final thoughts, I just want to say, if you haven't looked at new construction as a wealth building tool, now is the best time to consider it. You're not just buying a house. It's a strategy. It's a strategy that can lock in low builder paid interest rates, which means more money in your pocket, eliminate major maintenance expenses for decades, reduce utility bills, could generate passive income if you're looking to turn it into a rental down the road, and it could grow your net worth by hundreds of thousands of dollars just through smarter financing and a little bit of discipline. But you have to approach it the right way. So work with someone who knows the space, who understands how to negotiate with builders, how to compare construction quality, and how to ensure your investment makes sense. And not just today, but for years and years and years to come. If you're here in Arizona or interested in Arizona, I'd love to guide you through that process. And if you're listening from another state, you're looking at new construction in another state, please reach out. Like I said, I'll connect you with someone in your market who knows new construction just like I do. Because really, no matter where you're buying, having the right strategy, having the right guide can make all the difference.